Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 13 of the Let's Dream podcast. First of all, Happy New Year. Happy 2021 to anyone that made it this far. Hopefully this year will be a lot better, especially a lot better for dreamers like ourselves. I am your host, Casey Lucid, and we also have...
co-host Lee as well. I hope everyone's being safe for 2021 out there.
Okay, so today we're going to be going over some more dream stories that people have shared with us either through the website or through our friends or through social media, and then we'll also share some of our own stories. If you would like to share any of your stories with us, just feel free to drop us a line at contact@letsdreampodcast.com, or you could just look up our social media profile on Facebook or YouTube, Instagram, or even just drop us a comment in the comments of the podcast wherever you're listening to your podcast. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Podbean as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into the dream stories. Lee, what have you got for us for the first dream story?
We have the first couple are going to be from the same user, Anton400. Alright, so he dreamt he was exploring a jungle with his uncle, who was an explorer, and he had a red hair and a red beard. At some point, they came to a clearing where they could see a giant long-necked dinosaur with mountains on its back.
Okay, cool.
So I guess he just had a interesting dream with his uncle, who may or may not have been uncle, with red facial hair.
I think that's really cool. How, sometimes obviously in the waking world, when you're little, you would see, well, not even when you're an adult, you can see some animals and like just try to imagine like combining them, like different types of animals, like often like in sci-fi people do that. And then it's really interesting to see like an animal or a creature like that in dreams. It really shows like how powerful the imagine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I thought of too. It's like a Pokemon combined with a dinosaur. We'll actually have an illustration of this one that we'll post up on the website. And then the next one, also from the same user, Tauntaun400. It goes, I was on a vast ocean being chased by King Boomy from Avatar, except for some reason he was riding across a giant tidal wave, and so was I. Eventually we came to a shore of icebergs all around, and I landed on the sand. I made my way up, and there was a grassy hill full of trees and flowers. Except on that hill were statues of hundreds of monks. The thing is, they were alive and would sometimes move ever so slightly. That's about when the dream ended. The user also went on to write, now as I'm writing this down, there was another part that I recalled just before the last scene, I think. I forgot where I was going, but for some reason I was already high above space and now I was returning home. Not in any spaceship or anything, just myself crash landing to the surface of the planet. For some reason, I was really fond of Sweden and landed near a hospital without any damage either to myself or the surrounding environment. That's it for the dream.
So you went from sci-fi to fantasy?
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of elements in this dream for such a short dream, but it's interesting to think about how dreams can be like that sometimes. Like you feel like there's so many things going on at once, but somehow they all play out. And one thing that I wanted to mention is I've actually had, I think, about like 6 or 7 people so far, including myself. Like people have shared dreams with me where they had just crash landed from outer space into Earth, like just with their body, not like in a ship or anything like that. So I wonder if that's like a common theme or something, like how people often have dreams of being chased. I wonder if that's something that may be like another common theme amongst some people.
Interesting. Maybe it's just your mind's kind of process of just thrusting you into another plane of existence, as a reason to.
Maybe. Yeah. And then like there were so many interesting elements. I made an illustration of this dream as well that we'll post up on the website. But yeah, there's so many different elements. It feels like a very chaotic dream, but also it's almost like somewhat organized chaos. I really liked it.
And I think we got the last one from the same user, Tauntaun400.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So this time I was a cultist of Cthulhu and I could control people with my voice. I went into a church with a spiral staircase at the entrance. This was more of an alabaster stone cathedral, actually, and I went in there testing my power of control over them. Then one of the priests collapsed and I carried him outside the church and opened a portal to a world with a dark purple blackish sky filled with water, just as black. As far as the eye could see, I got the feeling I had grown tremendously in size physically, because I held the appearance of a mini Cthulhu as well when I had stepped through the portal, which for some reason was always instigated by an ant or a spider on a leaf. Once I stepped through, there was Cthulhu himself, and I offered the priest to him without question. I should also like to mention that when I was carrying the priest, I drew some circle spells on him. I think I was semi-conscious because I was still thinking in the dream, but when I got to the other world, Cthulhu killed me because I was being really sassy to him, and because I had tainted the priest with my spells out of curiosity for what I could do. After that dream, the dream shifted, and there was a new girl with red hair again. I see a lot of people with red hair. She stumbled upon the spider or ant that opened the portal in the backyard of a dark and creepy house. She went through and then barely managed to escape with her life, came back out. Suddenly, there was an old lady, and the setting changed to a grassy island in the middle of another dark blue-gray sky. I could get the feeling that she was a witch. I was talking to her about something. I think I became a girl at this point. But after that, I went back to the house with her, and we tried to brave the portal, and it ended before I could wake up.
Okay. Wow. That's that was a very that's a story right there.
Yeah, thank you so much, user Tauntaun400. You have some very, very awesome and just
fantastical dreams.
Many fascinating aspects to your dreams. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example how, some people have just really far out dreams. Some people just have, like, from what I talk to with people like on the different Discord servers or Reddit forums, it seems to me like some people just have like really mundane, like regular dreams, like they're going to work or talking to family or something like that. And that's fine. But some people just have like crazy, like this one, they just transform into Cthulhu and like travel through different dimensions.
It's mind flare, like preying on a little church that they just found.
Yeah,
cool.
It's so interesting to see the wide range of dreams and like themes that people have in their dreams.
This was like I felt like this was kind of like a one single dream that just kind of flowed into each other too. Not like, you go back to sleep and you have a different dream. It was all kind of seemingly connected.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty interesting, right?
Yeah. Those are always fascinating.
And I think you see a theme with his dreams, in particular with seeing people with red hair.
Yeah. And also very, very like fantasy, sci-fi kind of. See, I wonder if, I bet to some extent, whatever type of entertainment or media you're used to consuming impacts your dreams. Because I have, I'm a big fan of comic books and anime and fantasy and sci-fi in general. And a lot of my dreams are just really, really like that. So I bet that plays.
Yeah, I have no doubts those affect like how you perceive and how you want the world to be at some points. Experience it. I always want to be in my favorite comic book or be in a cool sci-fi movie.
Yes, exactly. Actually,
I have never been the bad guy though. I don't think that's happened to me yet.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't been like, this user mentioned being a little minion of Cthulhu. Yeah, I don't think I've had a dream where I was the bad guy.
Huh. I wonder what that says about you.
I don't know.
Because I've definitely had dreams where I was the bad guy. As a matter of fact, one time I was a warlord. I was like a horrible warlord in one dream. And the reason why, and this is exactly my mentality, I was trying to unite these countries. So I was like, well, I'll just be an evil warlord. That way they can all unite against me. And when they defeat me, everyone will just be united.
So you were just a big anti-hero?
Yeah, but that was like that was a long dream, and it was a very emotional dream. I probably had some emotions I was trying to work out in that dream, but yeah, that one was a weird one.
Sacrificing yourself for the ultimate good.
Yeah, but the thing is, in the process, I just remember like a ton of people died, so I'm like, I don't even know if this is worth it anymore.
I don't know, man.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, let's not get into the philosophy of that for now.
Yeah.
All right, so the next story, Casey, what we got?
We have, this is another user, the username is Eat My Snail. I love the username. So they wrote to us, the first two things that pop to mind are my nemesis, this obnoxious ice queen, and her half-werewolf boyfriend who bit off my legs once in a dream. I used to meet them in this weird alternative universe that was like a glitchy snow desert with mountains that were very boxy in shape, and everything was white. I didn't think there was anyone there for a while until I started noticing her out of the corner of my eyes. It reminded me of Slender Man, actually. I couldn't really look at her directly, so her face seemed almost like a blur, like she didn't have one. But she was insanely tall and slim like Slender Man, but more in a graceful way. She had black hair and a crown that looked like it was made of ice that was really pointy. She just glided around the corner of my vision like a ghost for a bit. I thought I was seeing things until she told me I didn't belong and that I should leave. She smacked me down to the floor with ice-like wind, and I made my way to the center of this weird scape, and there was a throne naturally made by the top of one of the mountains. It was insanely tall. I sat on it. She didn't like that, and I think she banished me or something. Anyway, I woke up after she hit me and forgot about it before I went back there again. This time, I was with my boyfriend, and we met the werewolf dude. He didn't speak, didn't have a throne to sit on, instead sat at her side like a dog. He was always half wolf, even as a human. One human eye and one golden eye. His fur was black, which contrasted greatly with the white of everything else, and didn't look well kept. Honestly, that dude annoyed me so much, mostly the biting off the leg. Not having one of your legs in the dream is weird, and that's the end of that. Thank you for sharing that with us. I like how she puts in that the Ice Queen had woke her up, and then later on she had gone back into the dream. Does that ever happen to you? Like, you're dreaming about something, and then you woke up, maybe for a brief period of time, and then you go back to sleep, and the dream just continues?
Yeah, actually. There are certain times where sometimes I get restless in my sleep, and I'm having a really cool dream, and I wake up all of a sudden for, whatever reason, and I'm like, oh man, I really like that dream. So then I kind of go back to the sleep, and I start thinking about what I can remember from the dream, and I kind of just ease back into it when I fall back to sleep, and it's interesting. Like, I have that intent to, I want to go back in that dream, and sometimes it happens, and other times it doesn't, but...
Yeah, I was talking to some people on one of the dream discords, and on one of the Discord servers, and there's some people that apparently have, an entire running background story when they're away from the dream, and whenever they come back to it, it's like it continues like everything was going on when they weren't in the dream. It's really interesting. People will tell me, yeah, I have this one village that I go to regularly that I live in my dream, and I'm like, that's some next level lucid dreaming, man.
So, VR universe where you just go back and
right
forth.
And they go back, and they'll be like, yeah, and the village was attacked by trolls, so then we had to build a rebellion and rise up against the trolls. And I'm like, whoa, and everything stays the same, and that just goes to show the power of the mind is just insane.
Yeah, I find it funny that this user had her leg bitten off by the werewolf boyfriend, and its continuity is kept into this dream too, and it's and the feelings that are like, man, I don't like this guy. He bit my leg off.
Yeah, that's that really too. Funny. That too. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, the feelings, it's so weird how you can develop feelings for dream characters, and those feelings can carry over next time you run into them in the dream. It's so strange.
How dare you, werewolf? That was my leg. Alright, so the next one we have from user Yummy Food 123. In my dream, I was riding in a van with 3 girls I was friends with. No idea who they were, but in my dream, I trusted them. Well, we got into a wreck in the woods, and we flew out of the vehicle. We were okay, but somehow we all got sucked away in different directions by something we couldn't see. When I finally got my bearings and wasn't spinning around, I found this girl holding my arm. Her arms and legs were so skinny they could barely be considered real limbs. Her skin had a pink tint to it, and everything she touched started turning this sickening pink color. Her hair was done up pretty, and she was wearing makeup. But that didn't make her pretty. Despite how emaciated she was, I couldn't get away from her, and she kept whispering things into my ear. We walked around, and it felt like she was leading me on in circles. But she said we were heading somewhere. She wouldn't tell me where it was. It was as if someone else was in charge, and she was talking, and she was taking me to this person. But she didn't say much about him or her. Somehow later in this dream, I got away from her, and I was running through the forest, which now that I was away from her, was mostly gray. Maybe a few greens here, but mostly gray. I was carrying this spear-like stick I was using as a walking stick. I remember thinking about my grandpa being dead, died about 5 years ago, and that I had to reach him somehow. Well, suddenly my feet felt like lead and my eyes were heavy again, and I noticed the girl had her hand on my arm. It'll be better if you just forget him, she whispered. Better if you just forget the pain. You don't need it. My arm and my spear/walking stick started to turn pink. I tried to pull myself out of her stoop, but it was really difficult. I remember the spreading pink slowed. If you stick with me, you'll feel better. I screamed and tried to pull away from her. She barely had a grip on me, but I felt like I was pulling my body through thick honey. That was pretty much the end of my dream. The user goes on to note, I thought about it for a while, and I think that skinny girl was my fear. So thin, so small, but somehow it has such a strong hold on me. I think the death of my grandpa represented grief. Healthy grief. Like, somehow I remembered that I needed that. But my fears prevented me from grieving properly because I just pushed the bad thoughts and the events away. I forgot them, so I never got to grieve. It was a powerful dream.
That's an excellent example of how emotions can manifest in dreams in a very visual way. So that was really cool. I really thank that user for sharing that with us.
And this is a perfect example of what we've sort of been talking about throughout the podcast. Like, your dreams sort of, can have these certain really profound meanings if you pay attention to them. And this user just so happened to really think about this dream specifically a lot. And yeah, this user, thought about it, and she realized certain elements represent certain things, and realizing in real life, like, he never got to actually grieve for her, deceased grandma.
Yeah. So
I think that's a perfect example of what we've been, telling, advocating throughout the podcast.
That's the thing. It's like, our lives can be very busy and we're very distracted by so many things. Sometimes you don't get a chance to express your emotions properly. And sometimes in some cultures, it's not even considered, appropriate to express your emotions. It's strange, but yeah, we always have dreams. The next one, the user shared 2 dreams. They're 2 very brief dreams, so I'll just go over them real quick. But the user's name is SuperCoolGuy56. So the first dream, he had a dream that he saw a silhouette man with a flaming head who also had a mask of the devil on his butt. So that's just it. That's the first dream. So yeah, that's like
I don't really know what to make of it, but it sounds, from the outside, it sounds funny. I don't know how it would have been looking at. It might have been
well. So I actually made I talked to them about it, and I made a quick sketch of that one that we'll also post up on the website. But yeah, that one was really interesting. And then this next dream that they shared with us is, I had a dream where I saw my grandpa that said he wants to work for the city as well. This time I didn't realize though that he was not alive anymore. In the next dream scene, there was a dragon TV show where a 2-headed dragon that was named Don't Ride the Dragon was the host. And there was a game about a show. You use a teleporter that makes you go into a T-pose, but if you time it right, you can fly probably to the end of the level. Then I was in the TV show seeing the T-Rex. I pushed him down a cliff and he was really gone as I checked it out. Then I was home again and ate 5 or 6 different Mario World branded boxes of mac and cheese. And my brother said already they wouldn't be safe to eat, and now I have to agree with him. So that's yeah, that's like an all over the place dream, but that's a dream for you.
You can tell this is very heavy video game related.
I just thought I made a sketch of this one as well, where the character pushed the T-Rex off of a cliff. That's such a... Can you imagine doing that? That's interesting.
But that just makes perfect sense if you're a gamer, When you play video games, you try to find kind of the easiest or the cheesiest way to kill a boss, right? And this person so happened to be in this position, and the T-Rex, top heavy, and there's a cliff. What's the logical thing to do? Push him off the cliff. What's he gonna do? Try to climb back up with his tiny arms? I don't think so.
That's a very good point. But yeah, so I thank all of the users for sharing their dreams with us. Obviously, wide range of dreams here. Some of them are very interesting. And Lee and I have also prepared some dreams that we can share with us, with our audience. I have this one dream that I had back in November of 2015 that I actually made an animation out of that we'll also share on the website. That I thought the listeners might enjoy. So I had a dream that I awoke in a forest, and the forest itself was beautiful, and there were a lot of people just scattered around, and it looked like they were all kind of just waking up. And I walked around for a little bit, running into them one by one, and it turned out that I knew all of them. There were over 100 people, and each and every one of them had been someone that I had known at one point or another. Aaron, Corey, Emily were also there, and they were the people that I interacted with the most. Eventually, it was figured out that we had all died, and for some reason, I was chosen to lead everyone to the place where spirits rest. I was kind of annoyed by this, and I was very refusing to accept the role, but I felt pity for the majority of the people there and decided to help. For some reason, I knew exactly where to go, and it ended up being a place in the middle of a desert that was basically an oasis. It was a small city with very lush greenery, fruits and vegetables everywhere. But to get there, we had to go through a desert and cross a river that was bone dry. Once we got there to the dried up river, we were stopped by these eerie creatures that were guardians, and they were stopping anyone from getting through. They kind of looked like Oogie Boogie from Nightmare Before Christmas, but they were all covered in black leather and had bits of blue and gray with a streak of yellow here and there. And they didn't have any faces, but slight indents and gestures for the face, where the eyeball cavities would be and where the mouth would be. And they just had tentacles and no fingers. And there were about 12 of them with varying shapes and sizes for their bodies. So, the creepiest thing is, they wouldn't say anything and they wouldn't make any noise, but they would make these muffled sounds that just kind of sounded like and it was really, really creepy because you would try to communicate with them and that's all that they would say. And everyone was kind of scared to face them, but then I had to remind everyone, hey, we're already dead, you have nothing to worry about, let's just face them. And so the group of people, we all rushed the gates of the oasis. And the first time, a lot of people got through, but myself and all my close friends, we didn't get through for some reason. The creatures seemed to be targeting us specifically. And they would whip us with their tentacles and grab us in these wrestling moves and slam us down. And then we'd retreat defeated. And then we would think of the next attack and then go in again. Same thing would happen. More people would get through, but us specifically, my group of friends, we wouldn't get through. And then this happened about 4 or 5 times. And then eventually my friend Aaron goes, okay guys, enough playing around. Let's just beat the shit out of these guys. So what we end up doing is we just end up doing wrestling moves on them and kicking them and drop kicking them and basically beating them up. And then me and my friends, we all walked into the oasis after all the creepy creatures were beat up, and then that was it. That was the end of the dream.
Yeah, that's a really fun dream.
Thanks.
And I really like that one too.
The creatures, though, they were so creepy. They just, again, we'll post the animation so people can see what they look like. Yeah, the creatures were really creepy.
And I think for the last dream for the day, I'll share mine. This was actually on the last day of the 2020, on December 31st. This is actually a little bit about me and you, Casey. I dreamt that I was transported to an ancient feudal mystic Asia with a lot of Chinese kind of motif, right? There, so I was transported from modern day to the past and a little mystical ancient China. And there I met you, my friend KC. And you were donned in princely robes, which had the golden emblem in the middle with red Asian robes. And you had a little noble hat on. Being a familiar face, I wanted to get reacquainted. Turns out Casey's been outcasted by the current queen and her daughter, the princess, or they wanted the throne for themselves. And I was transported in the middle of a forest area, I remember, and we started our adventure together to go back to the palace and try to get back your throne and journey, pretty much get you home. And I think at this point we went through kind of a lot together, a typical journey. Going facing the wilds and nature together. And then eventually we made it back to the palace where we kind of confronted the evil queen. And I remember that somehow she was prepared for us. And by then we kind of established that, hey, we want peace, right? Whenever we faced some adversary, we would pacify them in the most peaceful way. So it was very non-violent. So we saw that the evil queen had prepared us, and she had the whole palace kind of guarded up, guarded with all the sentinels and spears. I remember us making the guards really angry, and they started crying because they couldn't do anything to us. And so they started kind of retreating and abandoning the palace one by one until there was nothing left but the queen and the princess. And we took away their weapons, and we even got some of them to fight for our cause, being you for the rightful heir as a throne. And so we eventually made it right, and we got back your throne. We imprisoned the queen and the princess who were conspiring. And it turns out that the princess was the mastermind behind it all. The queen was just following whatever the princess wanted. Yeah. A little twist. And so, at this point, I felt in the dream that me and you had this awesome bond, right? I wanted the journey with you to get back your throne, and you wanted a journey with me so I could get back home. And, that's sort of the deal we had in the beginning. And so once that happened, I remember spending the last day there, and I remember being escorted by the other palace guards while you attended other duties. And they were escorting me to this portal that they kind of recovered. And I just remember you gave me this present. I don't know what it was, but I remember walking with the two kind of escorts side by side. And I remember oh man, he's just not even here to see me off. And then I was right before the portal. I kind of turn around and I see you kind of on the balcony waving your hand in your fresh, clean, newly printed, prince robes, maybe king robes at this point. And at that point, I remember opening the box and stepping to the portal in the bright light, and that's where the dream ended. And I remember tearing up at the end.
Oh wow,
very emotional.
Hey man, that is an epic dream. Cool.
Yeah, I really liked it.
You said that was on the 31st, on December. Nice.
Yes, I guess. Yeah, that night, 30th, I guess.
That's really cool, man. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's how long did the dream feel? How long would you say in dream time that it felt like it lasted?
It's very strange. So I remember being transported back, and I saw you, and that took a couple hours. But then when we started journeying back to the palace, that part was montaged or speed run through, right? So there's not a lot of details there. But I remember but then it kind of cut forward to being in front of the palace, and devising a plan to disarm the guards and get the queen back. Yeah, so no one died. It felt within the time span of hours, probably.
See,
I'd say.
I love dreams. That's so cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. I've had. There's another dream that I have in my journal where, you, me, and a couple of our friends we ran. Yeah, we had an epic adventure that felt like it lasted years. But okay, well, that's pretty much it for all of the stories, the dream stories that we had for this episode. I thank all.
Do you have any final thoughts on do you have any final closing thoughts on these dreams before we close out?
Really, the main thing to our listeners would be just to write down your dreams. They're always really entertaining to go back and read them, and especially if you have silly dreams. I know that a lot of my earlier dream journals, dreams are just kind of silly, and you can tell because I've been keeping dream journals since I was a teenager, so you can kind of tell how your reality just starts to shift over time. And going back and reading some of my teenage dream journals is hilarious. I'm not going to share any of them because the stories are just ridiculous, but I might actually share some of them, some appropriate ones at some point. But if you have any interesting dream stories, our listeners, if they want to, if you want to share any of your dream stories with us, just drop us a line at contact@letsdreampodcast.com or anywhere on our social media profiles. Let's Dream is our YouTube channel. We'll post some of the animations as we make them and some of the ones that we have. Yeah, we always like hearing dreams.
Yeah, and we also have a Twitter now at Let's Dream Lucid, so you can catch us there. And, we definitely appreciate you all listening to us and coming on with this dream journey so far. And we'd definitely love to hear from you and share your dream story as well. And so I think we'll just catch you on the next dream.